On today's episode of Gathering the Kings, I'd love for you just to drop, if it's possible, some of the big name clients that you work with, because we're thinking, okay, spring in the pin, but Chaz kind of mentioned
Right.
space. What are some of
Yeah.
the, you said defense, you said space, like who are you working with
Right.
on this?
So NASA, so they're a huge customer of ours. We're so proud to be a partner in the space race. This is the new space race.
Yeah.
So in the 50s and whatnot, our parents had getting to the moon. Well, this is the new space. We're getting back to the moon, and the Artemis missions using the SLS Orion are going to put the first woman on the moon.
Wow.
So we're a huge partner in that.
What's up, everybody? Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host, back with you here today with another queen on the king stage. But don't let the queen title fool you. This queen comes from an industry that is going to be super interesting. We have never had the likes of this type of product and company on this show. I am so excited. Heather Falcone, welcome to the king stage.
I mean, that was very
You like
good.
that?
Yeah, clearly Italian by association. I'm loving it.
You and I both were Italian by association, right?
That's right. I mean, that makes us guilty and forevermore. Pasta, we're in.
Yeah,
We're family, you
I
and
was
I.
getting ready to say, it's kind of like a big fat Greek wedding, right? It's
Mhm.
it's kind of just like that. We're all big family. We like to make a lot of food, and we use Windex on everything, right? No, I'm just Heather, please don't leave us in suspense any longer. Tell us what kind of business that you have.
My company, my family's company, we're a second generation family owned business based out of Orange, California. And in case you don't know where Orange, California is, it's right next door to Disneyland,
Boom.
Southern California, Orange County. So it's called Thermal-Vac Technology. So the name doesn't really help you, and that's totally fine. Also, if you don't understand what I'm saying as my explanation, also fine. There's no test, I promise you. We do heat treating, brazing, and chemical processing primarily for the aerospace and defense industry. However, we can do literally any industry that exists that has a material that has to be heat treated.
Okay.
So, just a very small tidbit on that description because it's not very helpful. So, if you say pick up a pen right now,
Okay.
here's a pen, and it clicks. Inside that pen, there's a little spring.
Yeah.
That spring does not spring without us.
Ooh.
Because it doesn't come out of the ground that way. It's just like a chunk of a rock, and you're just like, oh, cool, metal. It has to be refined, machined, etc. And then we come in right at that very end before that spring gets put in that pen, and we heat treat it thermally by making it real hot. And it changes the very base microstructure of the material itself. We're talking stuff you can't see with your naked eye, chemistry, science. I don't know. I didn't do so well in high school sometimes, but it actually physically changes the way that metal reacts. So instead of being long and straight, maybe now it's a spring and it goes boing, boing.
Right.
So we do that, but like for, like rocket engines and missiles
Big
and
giant things going to space.
yeah, yeah. We're closer to a dry cleaner than we are a manufacturer. So manufacturers, you could say, okay, part A plus part B equals widget C. We have no tangible product. So dry cleaners don't manufacture pants, design pants. They don't do any of that, right? They just take your dirty pants and they give them back all shiny, clean, and pressed. Same with our business model. We take already machined, they've got 90% of their work into this product. They send it to us in our loving care, and we put it in our delightful vacuum furnaces, and we heat it up and we perform our magic and give it back to them, looking beautiful, shiny, and ready to put in their final application.
I know that, you've shared some, bigger applications here, but I'd love for you just to drop, if it's possible, some of the big name clients that you work with, because we're thinking, okay, spring in the pin, but Chaz kind of mentioned
Right.
space. What are some of
Yeah.
the, you said defense, you said space, like who are you working with
Right.
on this?
So NASA. So they're a huge customer of ours. We're so proud to be a partner in the space race. This is the new space race.
Yeah.
So in the 50s and whatnot, our parents had getting to the moon. Well, this is the new space. We're getting back to the moon, and the Artemis missions using the SLS Orion are going to put the first woman on the moon.
Wow.
So we're a huge partner in that. We actually perform electrolytic nickel plating to some of the tubing that goes around the skirt of the engine. So if you think Apollo 13, that everybody's seen that, almost everybody, or picture the last space movie you
Yeah.
saw, when it goes, that fire stuff that's coming out the bottom, inside of that big cylinder, there's a bunch of tubes
Okay.
that are lining it. We do those.
Wow. Pretty sweet. Okay, so we've got a business that everybody knows about now. Thank you for the clear explanation. But we're all just like, "I'm sorry, what? You do what again?" Which is
Mhm.
incredible. So congratulations to all that. I wanna know, though, a specific little tidbit. You said second generation. And so give us a little
Yes.
bit of the story. I wanna know 2 parts. I wanna know
Mhm.
how it started. Give us a couple minutes on that. And then why are you in the position that you are?
And we can't say default. Is that like a rule? No, we'll go there. My father started the business in 1985. I was born in 1982, so you can kind of do the
Mhm.
math. My entire
Yeah.
life has been built in and alongside the building of my father's legacy in this
Yeah.
business. So he got an idea because he's an entrepreneur from just like came out of the womb that way. And he spent a lot of time working in the industry as a young person. Asterisk, he has no college
Yeah.
degree. Self-made man, high school education only. He went and worked for a bunch of industry guys, big guys, Aerojet, back when it was not Aerojet, it was something
Yeah.
else, and some of the other manufacturing type of industries around this area. And then he started to slowly realize, I think I can do this better. I think I see a niche that's not being filled. I see the
Yeah.
need. And so he branched out on his own and he started Thermal-Vac. And originally it was a combination of heat treating, brazing, and CNC machining.
Okay.
He started it with a partner who is deceased now, my Uncle Russ. He's not an uncle, but everybody's got an Uncle Russ,
Everybody's
right?
got
That's
an
not
Uncle
really.
Russ. That's right.
Yeah, I love my Uncle Russ. He lost his Ferrari in San Diego one
Oh,
time. Yeah, just, like, forgot where it was.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah. He was
it was a bad
That's
day.
normal, right? Yeah, yeah, he found it eventually, but anyway, so it's these 2 larger than life personalities, and out in the world developing this business, and it just takes off, and because the aerospace boom in the '80s was real. So they just latched into that market, sucked up a bunch of market share that really saw that need, and it filled it. So my dad ran this business all the way up through 2012 when he decided to retire for the first time. He got super bored. So in 2015, he came back.
Wow.
That only lasted another few years and he got really bored again. And he's like, peace out. So we went through a strategic planning session where I was introducing the entrepreneurial operating
Yeah.
system, which we can talk about a little bit
Okay.
later, coming from Traction, Wickman. And I said, this would be really great because we're bumping up against a revenue ceiling.
Mhm.
Let's bring in this operating system. As a part of that process, we were plugging people in, on the org chart, all the little buckets and stuff. We got all the way through that process. I had no bucket.
Oh.
So I was like, is this how it
Yeah.
happens? Is this how they get rid of me? What?
I set all this up and now they're gonna X me.
I like single tear. I was a little concerned, honestly, because it was like the very last end of the day. And I was like, but then they got to the top C, which in the entrepreneurial operating system, they call the integrator.
Yeah.
And each one of them just went around the room and said, Heather, 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 Heather. And that's how I got in this chair.
Yeah.
So when I say default is not allowed, but it kind of was. I was the last one standing, and they were just like, "No, this is you. This is
Yeah.
you." I had no intention of ever occupying this position. I'm more of a lead from behind kind of person. I never expected or even wanted and or put into my goals to be a CEO.
Interesting.
But that was 2019, and I'm still here.
Yeah. Well,
They haven't kicked me out yet.
I think that I mean, first off, thank you for sharing. Even just the vulnerability of like, I never wanted this. Like that might come across to somebody as, like that. How could you be a good leader? And so I think that inside of that, it's like, no, you were already doing it clearly because everybody named you, right? You were
Mhm.
already doing the thing, and so it was more of just maybe like just a public recognition of what everybody else knew that maybe you just didn't know yet. Would you agree with that?
I agree, and it was part of a realization that I had been actively acting in that
Yeah.
way for a long time and not ever wanting to actually take the leap and own it.
Yeah.
And that was a realization for me that was a little bit hard to understand because I felt like, "Oh my god, this is
Right.
ungrateful." All of these things, I had a lot of shame around it, like, "Oh my god, I'm turning down an opportunity. I never looked at
Right.
this." But then I turned it into like, "No, people already were supporting me for so long, and look where we're at now. This is
Yeah.
amazing."
Yeah. Do you think that, because there's probably people listening here today that are second generation, maybe even third generation, or there's people like me that are first generation hoping that one day my children, just like you, carry the family mission, right? And so
Mhm.
Do you think that there for you that maybe that's, shame, guilt, limiting belief, whatever you were bumping up against there in your own mind, clearly it wasn't happening in real time because everybody else saw you as that. What was that? Was that my dad's a big personality and I would never lead him, and so I'm just gonna stay behind, or is that just more of a personality thing? Like, what was the meat of that feeling for you?
So we'll get just a little bit into the patriarchy. Our industry is male
Of
dominated.
course.
There was no way I ever even made the assumption I would lead our business because it would pass down the dominant male line. My father would pass it to my brother would pass it to his son,
Right.
etc. That was never an assumption that I made
Interesting. Yeah.
because of my societal structure. Why would I ever, as a woman, think that I would be in charge of a heat treating and brazing
Yeah.
business? And that in itself is a flawed
Yeah, limiting
line
belief.
of thinking,
Yeah.
right? So that's where it came from. Honestly, I assumed male lineage.
Yeah.
I did.
And okay, and so in that moment for you, being this, you know, group anointed CEO, but a woman, clearly one
Mhm.
that's articulate and knows her stuff, was that like the public, like, turn on switch for you where you, like, started to, in your own place, be this person who you are today? Or did it take some time to kinda warm up to this idea that you are leading this company that's what you never thought you'd do?
I had to spend some time reflecting even before 2019 when I took over CEO. It actually started when I was 36, so that would have been 2018 or so when I got cancer. Then I really started thinking, what is my life legacy going to be if I die tomorrow, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was already warming up to having some sort of realistic, self actualized presence
Yeah.
just right before. It was 1 year before, so I almost feel like I manifested it through being confronted in the face of death.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a life worth living is kind of important, and maybe I should stop minimizing myself, stop shrinking myself, stop masking, which is the new, I think, kids term that they're using, the younger folks, masking, but I super love it because, yes, mask on, mask off, love that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that mask started to slip when I was dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then 2019 came around, and I almost think it prepared me to be able to
Yeah.
accept and understand the position and its responsibilities.
I think that's a huge point. I think if we're all honest with ourselves and have the ability to reflect, like you just said, we can all find those moments for ourselves where we were
Mhm,
going through something, and whether we realized it in the moment or not, that we were reflecting like you were,
mhm.
fast forward, it then was preparing us for something else. And so, what would you say for the listener right now who might feel A, that they're in the same place that you were in 2018, whether they had a life altering situation like cancer or an accident, or they're just coming to an enlightenment of, wow, I have a purpose and I should do something about it. And or someone who's already gotten that realization, but they're still trying to, like, find their way, the younger you in
Mhm.
this regard, what would you say?
As soon as humanly possible, after you've embraced who you are, chase what will fulfill you. So if you're in that job that doesn't fulfill you and you have to put on a mask, as soon as possible, put all of your energy into finding a different path. And that's the scariest part for a lot of people because you might be 20 years into a career. You might have health insurance that's through this employer. You might have young children that you need to pay for school. You might have a stay at home spouse that relies on your support. And also, finding something that fulfills you is not some hippy dippy thing that nobody's allowed to have.
Yeah.
That's an essential quality of being you and being happy in this world, which we only get one time at. So, as soon as possible, embrace you, find a path that fits you. And that square peg, round hole, stop doing that. That rub will rub away pieces of your soul.
Mm,
And the sooner you can get rid of that and eliminate the friction, the happiness quotient goes up an amazing exponent. Like
yeah.
I can't, I can't even
Yeah.
explain what eliminating that friction does for your life.
Yeah. The person listening right now that's hearing you, what in whatever stage that they're in, what you just gave is actually applicable. It's applicable to me, it's applicable still to you. And so,
Hmm.
okay, we just heard you say, press into the things that are, right for you, and let go of the
Yeah.
things that aren't right for you. And we
Mhm.
can lean into, maybe that's hiring people around you, maybe that's in your personal life, doing the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. What would be like a first step for that person who just heard you say that, whatever level that
Mhm.
they're at? Maybe they've got a $1 billion company, or maybe they're just starting. to kind of
Right.
be able to press into that? Like step one, after they're done with this podcast, what should they do?
Oh, the first step is recognize the cognitive dissonance. So the immediate feedback from a person who's high functioning and very motivated is going to be like, I can't do that
Mm,
because of X, Y, Z. Da, 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 da. Okay, recognize that. That's the first step. And then evaluate your locus of control because you can't control the
yep.
world. You can control a finite amount of variables. Pick one, work on one. Because when you're looking at something substantial as a life change, the very first step is scope it, understand and scope. If you're looking at it as a big picture, it's overwhelming, it's unmotivating, it's anxiety provoking, it's the reason people can't lose weight, all of those things. It's the very first self-limiting factor that's going to come in is the scope is too large. So recognize that you're going to think about that and then scope it down.
Yeah, this is big. In essence, you can think big because everything you just said
Mhm.
is the opposite of what a lot of people in the success world are saying. You got to think big and have big dreams and big goals. And I ascribe to all that. I'm sure you do as well. But what I heard you say was that can't be the next step.
Correct. It's not logical. I mean, if you wanna be a game-changing DJ, sure, and me, I work in a heat treating brazing industry. The path from heat treat braze to DJ is not singular. There's a multitude of millions of
Yeah.
steps. I'm saying don't make that first step so large that you immediately undercut yourself.
Yeah. And I found too with a lot of entrepreneurs, even visionaries, probably a lot like your dad, just a lot of the, like you said, the entrepreneur from birth is
Mhm,
they can think really big, but then oftentimes they don't have the ability to kind of put all the pieces together. That's
mhm,
where a lot of the skill set of the integrator comes in. And so sometimes it's
exactly.
just finding that. Sometimes it's just there's a trail being blazed by a guy like your dad, and then finally, eventually, his daughter comes to clean it all up. I think that for the person listening, the application, everything you just said is true. They've got to be able to kind of figure out what those pieces are, but it can just
Mhm,
be one thing.
mhm,
It's not minimizing goals or making them small or like, "Oh, well, I think I can do this, and so that's gonna make me feel good," and then I just, check the box because it was really easy. What we're talking about is having poise over the course and recognizing, like, this is gonna take me 3 years or 30 years to have this second
mhm.
generation family and be able to, have my children running the company, like, that's not gonna happen tomorrow. My daughter's 9.
Exactly. Well, and the entrepreneurial mind can be very unorganized and
Yeah,
very industrious and want to do, a million things all at once. And
yes.
all of that can be true. And also, step one,
Yeah.
focus on step one because step one and step two and step three add up over time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the old adage, they underestimate what they can do in a year, but overestimate what they can do in 5 years, or maybe I said that in the back reverse. What I just heard you say, as far as, like, being able to dial it in, what do you think the
Mhm.
value of like, from your like, 2nd generation integrator, you still have a lot going on, and so I don't want the listener to think that the visionary is the crazy one all over the place, and the integrator has one little task they come in, like, that's obviously not how it works. So give us a little bit of, like, your EOS usage, and then what does it look like on a daily basis for you? And then I wanna get into some practicals around decision making.
The reason that we brought in EOS is because we're a family of entrepreneurs. So I'm one of four children. I have three younger brothers, and we all think entrepreneurially. We all have amazing ideas. And what we lacked was methodical, systematic execution. So a great idea is nothing without execution. So I recognize that in myself as an area for improvement. I saw it in our family. We had amazing ideas. We always wanted to do right and better and improve and make the world a different place, and the ideas kind of stayed with us. So, I mean, I it happens in the shower, you have flow, your brain gets into that alpha wave. Our family creates its own
Oh,
alpha
I bet.
wave. So we were just, a black hole of
Yeah.
ideas. So I was like, what can we do? What can we do? We're just like self-limiting. We're running it into ourselves. We're just not getting out of our own way.
Yeah.
So I actually went and read Traction. It was given to me as a gift. And I was like, light bulb.
Ding.
None of that was new. Some of those ideas are Jim Collins wrote that book, what, in the
Yep.
80s? This is not new stuff. And also is so basic and so foundational that it immediately leveled up our business just by even thinking about having a system.
Yeah.
Because now your whole mindset changes. Well, oh, well, what if we did that within EOS? So we brought in an implementer integrator. The words get super confusing, so don't get hung up on that.
I
But
brought in a
I
trainer,
can
an
say,
EOS trainer.
yeah, go get a trainer. Go get a trainer. And the reason that I strongly, like 1,000% believe in getting someone to help you implement this is because none of you, as the owners or leaders or whatever of your company, none of you have to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
You don't have to be that person coming in, let's do change. Yeah, rah, rah. No, now you pay this guy to come in and do it for you, guy or gal, whoever you choose. So we brought in this implementer and he ran everything. And we all just got to be like little students,
What now?
looking up at the teacher. It was too fun. So we actually took our leadership team. It was like 9 people and it's down to 3 now. So it organized our business. We put in process, we put in data. We have almost all of the pieces of the wheel put together. So how we use it today, every day, is we still have our level 10 meeting every single Wednesday. That started on the day 1 of the process. It's still here in 2023. Every single Wednesday at the same time, unmissable, unavoidable. You cannot schedule through it, period. And then our data component, we are extremely strong in our data systems. So we had goals, but they weren't necessarily being measured or tracked. And what's the point of having a goal if you don't really
Know where you're at.
If you don't keep score of the game, nobody wins. That's no fun. We all play the game to win.
Yep.
So we kept the data component and we kept the level 10 component. We also have kept the process component. So we went and refined down a lot of our systems. In our industry, we have very high quality standards. So we already had kind of procedures and a quality system that was it's very large and clunky.
Yep.
And I think that's a symptom of us trying to grow and kind of putting another ceiling in.
Sure.
You tend to grow your systems and then they become too bulky. So you got to scale back down for efficiency.
Yep.
We hit that ceiling hard. So EOS reframed that and helped us focus on exactly what is most important. So those are the 3 that have been pivotal to us.
Yeah, I love all 3. I want to dig into that last one just a smidge. You had systems and give us a little bit of understanding of what it meant to build out too many systems or have them kind of get in the way where you had to kind of go
Mhm.
the opposite direction and reframe. Give us a little bit of that.
Well, when we're very small, you have a very close key team and they all know how to do everything.
Generalist.
They're all personally invested. They are company people. You don't have to worry about things getting done because there's that innate sense, intrinsic motivation. You're not out there cracking the whip.
Right.
It just gets done.
Yeah.
And then you grow and you have to bring in people that aren't necessarily immediately aligned with your vision, don't get you, and they have to be shepherded.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, the first instinct is ratchet it down so that they can understand, write everything down, control everything so that they don't come in and do it different than we used
Right.
to. It's always been done this way. So we have to write it down really fast and make sure that only this way.
Yeah.
And that really narrows the view and the value of bringing in people as you grow, because then you're bringing in fresh ideas, new faces,
right.
people that aren't babies that grew up with this company.
Right.
You lose all that value.
Yeah.
So then you come full circle and you're like, shoot, we need to start acting like more entrepreneurial. Yeah.
Right.
Like back in the old days when we just like did stuff, we need to do that again.
Yeah.
So we got so large and we had a process even for like phone calls, how to answer them. We had a 3-page procedure on how to answer phone calls.
Now, the real question would be, did you have one on how to use the restroom?
We were darn close. I mean, I did have to train people how to open the toilet paper thing and put the toilet paper in.
I knew it. Okay, so
Yeah.
for the person listening right now who is at the other end of the spectrum, they just started their business in the last couple of years, and they're really in the Wild West. And when you say systems, they're like, "Oh, I got to get to that one day."
Yeah.
If you can reverse back, because you gave us the other side, it was like where you outgrew it, right? And you had to like, oh, geez, we did it something for everything, and way too detailed. We got to scale it back. What
Right.
about for that person who has nothing?
It's really hard to pick where to start because it looks like you need to start on everything all at once.
right.
And that's an impossible task and you're going to burn yourself out before you even get into it. So pick one thing. So if it's accounting, solely focus on accounting. Everything else will be fine for 6 months. Or if it's production, pick a piece of production so that you're not, first of all, you're not going to do this as the owner probably because you have other things to do. Making sure that you have a team member that's identified and compensated and motivated to do this for you and with you. So they need to have pay and motivation. They need to have authority and be empowered. And they need to have a very clear direction. So pick a thing, mastermind it out into a big plan. I don't care if it's 52 weeks, I don't care if it's a month, but plan it out, empower, and incentivize this person to get it done.
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Yeah, love that. You very easily made the assumption that that person that you're talking to understands the value of giving that task away. Because the entrepreneur, like you said, has better things to do, higher level activities, but that even in itself is an enlightenment. Help them with that. What do you mean by I have better things to do?
Your business is your blood, your sweat, your tears. It's your genetics. You birthed this baby and now you own it, but your umbilical cord is still attached. And that means you can only go so far away from your baby. I mean, it's a very short leash that you're on right now. So you gave birth to it. It is genetically you. It's not going to be less genetically you if you cut the cord. It's going to be okay. And think of the freedoms that you could have that will make your baby even better if you were able to just stretch it a little bit. So maybe you love sales, but you don't have enough time to do sales because you're also doing quality and you're also doing production and you're also doing the billing and well, okay, what if I didn't have to do the billing?
Sure.
Then I could do something that will add value to my business that I've always wanted to take more on of. You only have 24 hours in a day. And realistically, we don't have 24. We have about 12, maybe, of real, time awake that's cognizant and not delirious and coffee fueled. So, we have a very finite frame to get actionable work done. And if that actionable work is kind of put to the side for just babysitting your baby, take the ownership mentality that you have and apply it to how you can reinvest back in your business to make it an even better next phase, next stage.
I hope that the listeners paying attention to you, Heather, because you're so articulate and you're so kind as you're really giving them the business right now.
Because I love them.
Yeah, you love them. And I do as well. That's why I set you up, because I just had to have you hit it home. You have crushed every single answer I've given to you. I want to flip the script a little bit. You've given us a ton of value around good decision making, and even given us several examples of how you guys have used EOS to make great decisions. Appreciate that. Let's flip the coin. Let's get a little vulnerable. Tell us about an hour of a decision that was not good at all and how you could have, kept from it, or what can we learn from it?
This one was painful to think about, and I actually avoided it for about a week. I got the run of show and I said, nope, don't like that one. Maybe he won't ask it. I don't know if I want to prepare for this. Because as my personality type, I have to recognize that perfection is the only option in my brain. And that's very dysfunctional thinking. So I immediately reacted negatively and said, I can't talk about a failure because then I'll be a failure.
That's right.
So first of all, I had to confront that in myself. And then I reframed it and I was like, well, there's definitely things that we could have done better. And part of that sharing is going to be able to lift the feeling that just burns inside of my heart of like, this is terrible. So I'm excited to share it because looking back on it, it's still painful.
Yeah.
So at one point, we decided that we were going to enter a new market, a new type of
Okay.
capacity, a completely different product line that we had absolutely no experience in. But like when my dad started the business, he saw the need,
Sure.
and we saw this need out there that wasn't filled. So we went and we bought a piece of equipment that was $750,000. We never used it.
Oh, that's exciting.
It never got turned on. It was never completely installed. It has never been implemented. It is gathering dust in a building.
Still today.
Still today, never, never. And that's $750,000. We financed that. We went to our bank. They gave us money. They trusted us that we were responsible and it was an investment in our business. And we went headlong into it. And it was a mistake. We looking back, we didn't understand the
Yeah.
market. We didn't take the time to do research. We didn't take the time to understand how to staff it, to get the expertise because we'd never done it
Yeah.
before. I didn't know how to do this process. My dad didn't. Nobody knew. We knew kind of what it was, but we didn't have a clue.
Wow.
And we didn't take the time to see that through to say, well, should we hire somebody now? We didn't plan it. We entrepreneured it and we went and we're like, yeah, new process,
Yeah.
woo! And we went and bought it was a leap of faith that we could have taken a little bit more time on and done a little bit more
Yeah.
methodically. And it was a very, very expensive mistake.
Yeah. I want to point out two things. They're both sides of the coin, one that'll support what you just said and one that'll give the listeners a little tickle in their ear because it's going to be the opposite. But everything that you just said as far as entrepreneuring it, yes, we'll figure out the rest later, you know? That's
Right.
so exciting. And I think
Yes.
me, everybody listening right now is like, yes, let's do that.
Right. Siphon it in my veins, adrenaline
Yes,
hit.
let's go. Now, there are a certain group of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure that they're listening as well, who are much more methodical and they think through things, but that's not me, that's not you. Now, I like to think through things and take speed at the same time. So I can a little bit
Mm-hmm.
do both, but that mostly means that I've made some bad decisions also. Okay, so
Yeah.
inside of that's how businesses start. That's how like you gotta take
Mhm.
the leap of faith. Like you can't not ever do
Right.
that.
Right.
But when you did it, it was a huge mistake. And so I guess
It was.
but at the same time, so the
Mhm.
other side of the coin is that it didn't kill you.
No, it didn't. I lived. It was very painful. It's still painful. Every time you cut a check for a loan on a piece of equipment that isn't doing anything for your business, it hurts.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so can you give us a sneak peek? Like, does it ever get sold? Like, what are you guys doing with that? I mean, give us a little bit of the ending of the story. Close the loop.
Well, the great part is the market is there. It's just not with us. So
Okay.
it's absolutely for sale
Okay.
and the right buyer will come
Yeah.
along and it's going to be a showpiece because it was one of the first West Coast installations for our supplier, Gasberry. It's terrific equipment. I want Gasberry to be successful. They're an amazing company and partner for us. And the right person will come and look at this beautiful piece of equipment and be like, yes. And that's going to happen
Well,
because right now you and I are manifesting it.
we're putting the frequency waves out. Somebody's gonna need it. Can we know what kind of equipment it is?
It is a gas nitriter.
Okay.
So what it does is it takes gas, ammonia, and a mix of stuff, and it puts a case layer. So
Okay.
chocolate dip
Yep.
strawberry, but with metal pieces and really hard coating that makes it wear resistant for a wide variety of
There you
applications.
go. I need a metal dipper.
That's it.
Now, I know you probably don't know this, Heather, but, I own several edible arrangements franchises, so
What?
I know chocolate
It
dip
makes no
strawberries
sense then.
way more than you wanna know.
I love edible arrangements. My brother got me one that's bigger than my head
Yeah.
for my birthday last year. It was amazing.
Okay, so we've kinda gone through some decision making here. I wanna ask you a question about family because you've obviously, been in business with your family, and you still are. What there's 2 sides here, there's probably always 2 sides, and I've tried to cover 'em both, I guess. People say never partner with people in general, never go in business with family, and then there's you guys, and you're all in there all together. It's always been that way. You even talked about how it's been the greatest thing and the worst thing ever. So, the person listening right now who's either thinking about going to business with their family or who is in business with their family, how do they do it well to where they can win together at work, but then also still be family?
Yeah, the foundational idea is you are family first. So no matter what happens at the business, you still have to go to Thanksgiving with these people. And you can only talk about business so long before you run out of things to talk about.
Okay.
So if you're looking at bringing family into your business, the business cannot become the identity of your family, because then you have a very hollow family. And when the business is gone, when the business is gone, then you have nothing left with your family. You can't hollow out yourself and fill it with business.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to bring family in, fundamentals at the very beginning is establishing an operating agreement. And I don't mean just like sitting down and writing it. No, like a general, frank conversation about, let's make it a completely catastrophe conversation. Go to the worst case scenario. Nobody wants to sign a prenup because they don't want to think about getting divorced when they're about to get married. And that's the same idea that you're going to wind up if you're bringing a business partner. You're in this romance, love, dating period where everything's very exciting and fresh. And we need to take the time to take a pause and go and discover that scenario and what it looks like and what feelings come up, because you might find that you have two very divergent opinions and those two may never coincide. And if that worst case scenario comes to pass, it will conquer and divide. And you're talking estrangement, you're talking a foundational dysfunction that will affect your business. So if you think your business was going great and your family is great, just wait till you run out of money. Wait till something goes wrong, and that will test
Mhm.
the relationship in ways you can't realize. And it hurts when it
Yeah.
happens. So if you're thinking about it at all, have the hard conversations today. And if you aren't comfortable embracing that conversation because it's really painful and you don't want to think about it, get somebody to help you uncover it
Yeah.
slowly, piece by piece. A lot of people don't even want to bring their family in because they're like, oh, that's a mom and pop shop. That's not professional. I want to have a professional business. Well, spoiler alert, you can be a professionally run family owned
That's
business.
right.
We've done it. We're there. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Have we had periods of estrangement? Absolutely. Have we had periods of dysfunction? Absolutely. Are there times that I don't talk to my family? Absolutely. And yet, we're ride or die.
Yeah.
Something happens, we are all there. My father-in-law passed away on April. My entire family swoops in like a storm cloud and just swirled around me in love and support. So no matter what, they're there. And that's what I knew and continue to know. But if you're just starting out, it might feel like you can only have one or the
Sure.
other. And that's a really hard balance. So explore that early and explore it often.
Yeah. You've given us a lot of practicals there inside the business, the operating agreement, making it real, talking about the worst case scenario. I think that's super important. You made one little comment about that. I have to do Thanksgiving with these people. What
Yeah.
does Thanksgiving now? Typically, now you can answer this, for your spouse and your micro family, as well as maybe the greater family. But some of
Mhm.
my family questions are around like, I believe in obsession, not necessarily balance. I don't even think balance
Mhm.
exists. And so, how do we go all in on the business, all in on the family, all in on the marriage, all at the same time? And so, taking that question, that context, what does Thanksgiving or really any other example look like when you have to do it with these people that you're either working with or for your micro family, whether they're involved with the business or not?
The first step is recognizing that balance is impossible. I love your idea of obsession. So, obsession means that you can go through a phase of
That's right.
life, and something can be important this day, and then another day it can be not important or less important. That is how we handle holidays. So, some years it's what we call Clampsgiving, and we're sitting there in our office at work on Thanksgiving, and we're applying die-chem marker to customers' hardware, and we worked 12 hours on Thanksgiving. That's one year that happened. And then there's other years where we don't see anybody when in COVID.
Right.
We didn't see anybody. We had our little micro family and it was very small and intimate and it was wonderful too. So, not putting a definition on how your family acts, tradition is important. Tradition and honoring legacy and all of that can still be in your mind, and you can still do what's right for your either micro family or larger family year to year. Sometimes we eat, sometimes we work, and we always talk about work because that's who we are. It's built into us genetically. It's I hate the idea of obligatory holidays. I know my family loves me 365. So why does it take one day to sit down and eat a turkey and love each other? No. So freeing yourself up from a little bit of tradition and a little bit of, that social hierarchy that maybe we were raised with might help and be less stressful, at least.
Well, I think that you said it well, depending upon, who in your family maybe you're thinking of as I say this, but you know, the doing the conversations or doing life that has to do with the business. I'm
Mhm.
sure a big part of that is the business for you guys. But then there's also the
Mhm.
other things too. There's
Mhm.
things that happen either negatively or positively that have nothing to do with the business and family or even good relationships, friends, or even some of the clients that I have now in a peer-to-peer mastermind have become friends because when you're close like that, you check on each other, you're interested, you're curious, you dig into just all the different areas of life. You're kind of running with each other, for lack of better terms. That's what I see your family doing.
Mhm.
You guys are just maybe a little chaotic sometimes, but you're running together in life. It doesn't have to just be always about the business, though. To your point earlier, don't
Mhm.
let it be just that, right?
Yes, you still are an individual, and obligation, family legacy, and all of that, that can be in the background, but in the end, you are you, and you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah,
You're not obligated to anything on this life.
yeah. I've got a question for you about your dad. It sounds like a gentleman that would just bring light to really any room that he stepped into. Maybe we'll have to get him on the pod. But
Yeah.
my question for you is, for as a daughter, maybe a
Mhm.
different personality, maybe similar, but as a daughter, and then you have this bigger than life personality like you talked about. What do you think is important for, because I'm gonna guess that a lot of entrepreneurs listening are similar in fashion to your dad, like entrepreneurial and
Mhm.
thinking, kind of bigger than life, charge the hill, start something out of scratch.
Yes.
What can we what can we heed from you that our own 9-year-old daughter like mine, I can start
Mhm.
doing with them now that either he did with you or that you wished he would have done with you?
There's two very separate answers that I have for this. The very first one is I would do exactly what my dad did. He let us come to work.
Yeah.
Let your kids come to work with you. It's not probably the easiest thing, and it was
Takes more
in.
work.
He probably had no fun. Yeah, but he made his office to where we could come and visit him. He cut a hole in his desk. It's a big wood, traditional, very stately
Yeah.
desk. Actually, my
The
grandfather's, and
mahogany,
he
right?
cut a
Yes.
hole. It is. It's just like super manly and yeah, statuesque. And he cut a hole in it, and he put a TV in it, and then he put a couch in front of his desk. And now we could come to work.
Yeah.
And even if we weren't following him around, we could just plop our butt right on that couch and we could watch some TV while dad's doing
Yeah.
work. And that is what some of my very fondest, most cherished childhood memories are hanging out at Thermal-Vac with my dad. My mom worked there too. I'll send you a picture. She's typing away at a typewriter back when we had
Love it.
typewriters. And my brother's in the little playpen next to
Yeah.
her. So that was right.
Yeah.
Show your kids the value of honest work, having integrity, showing up on time, dealing with customers, logistics of
Yeah.
business, because we don't teach it in
That's
school.
right.
There's no exposure to it at all. Taxes, P&Ls, everything. We got shown that very early, and he was full
Love
transparency.
it.
The other thing that I think that we could have done better collectively as a father-daughter duo is communicate better.
Mm.
We share similar personality traits only to a very small portion of our
Okay.
personality. So about 10% of my personality identifies with his and vice
Yeah.
versa. That 10% wasn't exploited enough.
Yeah.
We didn't use that connection point often enough or deep enough to where our relationship was surface in a lot of ways.
Sure.
So I feel like if I could go back, I would try harder earlier to connect with him deeper, to understand as a person. Maybe we could have found more than the 10% if we had started when I was a little
Yeah.
girl. He was building a business. He had big things to do. He put blood, sweat, and tears. He wound up getting divorced over this
Well,
business, among other things. But that's the piece I would do a little bit differently. And I think he would accept some ownership over that
yeah.
too. Both of us are very stubborn. That's the 10%. Stubborn, pig-headed, single-minded, powerful type A. That's that 10%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when that tries to go at each other, it tends to just be like a
Oh
train.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And it got explosive. And I really think that we could have come at that from a different, more productive standpoint. So if you're looking at your 9-year-old, the first thing you got to do is tell her you love her with all her heart. She is the most beautiful, special, smart creature you have ever seen in your entire life. And then continue to tell her that every single day until you die.
Yeah. Super powerful. The the description there of not that we're opposites or that we aren't alike or that we just didn't do communication well. What I heard you say was that the little bits where it crossed over, we should have just focused on that more.
Yes.
And I think that's so spot on. And I mean, as you're talking, I'm just going through, my relationship. I've got 3 daughters now, but the oldest is 9 but going on 21 and ready to own her own business one day. So these are great insights selfishly for me, but I think a lot of listeners are going to get from value from that as well. I've got one last question here for you, Heather. I've got the opportunity. We've got a little time machine here. We're going to roll back the clock. You pick the age. You get to find the younger Heather. You tap her on the shoulder. You whisper in her ear. What do you say?
Every piece of you is lovable, has value, and is just fine, exactly the way it is right now. And change is your choice and no one else's.
Just sign the end of the book because that was the end. Heather, you're an incredible individual, clearly an incredible CEO, running a business that is doing major things. You're helping people and the first woman get to the moon.
Yes.
Apparently, I mean, just a
Yeah.
quarterly rock, no big deal.
Yeah, check out Artemis when you have a chance. Just go Google the Artemis missions. It's amazing.
And you guys get to be part of that. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your journey here today. How can the listener find you as an entrepreneur? They want to connect with you, or if they want to somehow, some way put their thing in your heater up machine. And
yes, I'm making a bumper sticker with that. I need a t-shirt.
How can they find you?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me under Heather Falcone on LinkedIn. I post almost every day. My Instagram is Cycle Tri Gal. I do triathlons and cycle and climb mountains and stuff. So you can find me on Instagram there. Those are the best 2 ways to connect with me, or I'm in the industry everywhere. So check out any of my other podcasts or come hang out with me at one of our events for family-owned businesses or metal treating. You want to learn more about our heater upper thingy? Yeah, let's go do this. Come to one of our events.
I love it.
I'm excited about that.
I love it. I don't know how we got through this entire show without you saying that you're a triathlete and that you climb mountains like Everest and amazing things. Like I now feel like, wait a second, we now need a part 2. So listener, possibly stay tuned if she's willing. The Falcone will be back,
Yes. The 2 Italians will strike
That's
again.
right. Italian by association. Heather, blessings to you, your family, your business, all that you're touching, and the projects that you're touching, whether it be here on Earth or in outer space. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.